Okay, so today we will discuss about routing in Angular. We will see how exactly we can configure the routing and how it works. So routing basically in Angular we know which helps us to move from one component to another component because Angular is the SPA single page application where page will not be refreshing. Rather, what will happen when we will be changing the path, in that case one component will be destroyed and another component will be loaded. This is what basically happens in Angular. So in order to learn routing, let's go and check what are all the things we should do. So here what we have done, like we need to create the application, and there it will ask like do we want to add the routing also. If you will press Y button means yes. In that case automatically we will have app routing.module.ts with this one. So here we can define the routes. We already have one variable defined of type routes, and in this array we can define all the routes. Basically, I already have created few components just to save the time. Like I have about component, then we have a home component, then here page not found and user. So these are the component I already have created with command ng g for generate, c for component, and then the name of the component. Then once we have this, in order to configure the route, what we have to do, we have to create the, in this curly braces we need to specify path, and in path we have to write like what should be the path so that a particular component will be loaded. This could be anything as per our choice, so I will say home. If path is home, then corresponding to this path, the component, what component we want, that we should mention here. So we will say here maybe home component. So name of the class I need to copy and I will paste here. It will ask to import. Okay, seems like already I did this, so it is automatically took. Likewise, we can copy and we can configure the several path. So here I will copy the same and I will just change the other things like home, then I will have about. I already come this one. So about means from here we can take this class name and we can paste here. This is like mapping, so corresponding to this route, this is the component that is mapped, and when we will access, we will try to access this path, this component will be loaded. So this is what basically will happen. Next we will say user. So for that we will say the path should be user, and once user path is accessed, in that case this is the component that should get loaded, user component. So here it will load user, and then let's leave it as of now empty. I have about, then home, then user. So that's it. So we will discuss about page not found sometime later, okay? Or else I will configure now only. So maybe something page not found, and then here we can say this class name. And we are done. So this is how we configure the route where we need to specify the path, and corresponding to this path which component should be loaded. This is the first thing. Once we are done by declaring all these paths, then we need to pass this variable to the as a parameter to the for root. That this line we need to mention in the import section of this module. So we are writing router module dot for root, and in that we will pass the variable that we have created. So you can see these routes is of type this routes, which we are getting from router module. Okay, these routes we are getting, and then we need to pass this for the for root. Once we are done, then what we can do, we are done, and then if we go, so when we refresh, so this is the code that I have written on app.component.html. So here this is, but the thing is when a particular route will be active, in that case component will get loaded where. So that also we have to specify. So in order to specify, we will say here itself get loaded. So for that, we will write router outlet. So what happens? Router outlet act like a placeholder. So whenever any path will be active, then corresponding to that path, whatever the component we have mentioned here in this one, that component automatically will get loaded at this placeholder router outlet. So this is how it will work. And now if we go and if we check, so these are the three things that we need to do. The first one is we need to define the router that we are doing here. And then whatever the variable we have created, that variable we need to pass as parameter for root of router module as a section of import. In import section we have to write this. And the third step is we have to specify the router outlet. So wherever we will write this router outlet as a tag, there automatically that component will be loaded. So below these things, now it will start showing. So if we go and check now by refreshing here, I will click on home. So you can see this is means currently at this placeholder or at this tag, automatically corresponding to the home URL we had registration of home component. So that's why we are getting the home component working here, means HTML of the is rendered here. If we choose the about, it will work about works. If we choose user, it will work user work. So this is how when we click on that, or when we click on user, you see automatically path is getting changed. Or we can write from here also like about, and it will work. So about got activated and about is rendering. And I have created a button also. Means in order to create the button, what we have to do, we need to put the anchor tag, and then Angular provides the router link where we need to specify the path. So we say कि whenever home should be clicked, in that case automatically the home route should be activated. And that's why if you see, when we click on home, automatically this will get changed to home. So when we click, you see home is changed. And now when this is getting changed to home path, automatically the home component is getting loaded. So this is how it works. Now the another thing is कि if we simply see, when we refresh this or if we remove this, in that case what happens, कि in beginning there is no routes activated, okay, and that's why at this placeholder, or I will say at router outlet, nothing is getting rendered. Okay, so what we want, कि when there will be the base URL, in that case automatically this should get redirected to home. So whenever anybody will try to access this URL, they should land up with their home page. Okay, so in order to configure that, in a router itself we can set here redirect to. Okay, or the another approach we can do is here we will copy one more thing like this path, and here itself we will paste, and in path we can simply say just empty path. So now what will happen, we can see even when no URL is mentioned, this is the base URL, and even in base URL also the home component is loaded, while earlier it was not, because when this one is happening, in that case it assumes this is the empty URL, and empty URL is getting matched with this path, and with corresponding to empty path we have already registered the home component, and so home component is getting activated and it is getting rendered here. But if you see here, it is like we are doing the duplicate things again and again, we are loading. So rather than writing component home component twice here also and here also, simply we can say कि like when the path is empty, in that case automatically it should get redirected to home URL, home path, okay, or home route. And when it will redirect it to home route, automatically home component will be loaded. In order to achieve this, what we can do, we will use here redirect to. Okay, so we need to say redirect to, and then in that here we need to mention the path. Okay, so we will say here slash home, we need to mention here slash and home, then it will work. And then component is not required because already we are redirecting to home. So what will happen now, it will, whenever empty route will be there, automatically it will redirect to home, so home will be activated, and corresponding to this home, the home component will be rendered. I will save and let's check whether this is working as expected or not. So you can see, in fact we started getting some error. Now if we go and inspect, so here it says कि invalid configuration of route, path empty is redirected to home. Please provide path match. The default value of path match is prefix. It says कि now while we are working with the redirect to, so it we should also mention the path match. Okay, and by default the value of path match is prefix. So let's go and check how we can configure path match also. So here what we have to do, we will write comma, then we can say path match. And basically we have two values for path match, full and prefix. So if we set each prefix, what will happen? Ki, whenever in the URL, this will match as a segment. Okay, I will explain what is here, how prefix will work. Then it will automatically start working. So for now, if we save here and we go, so you can see it is working. But do you know what is the problem? Even automatically empty path got redirected to home. Even if we remove this and then hit enter, so you can see automatically it is getting redirected to home. And so home component is getting rendered because of this configuration. So it is getting redirected to home even when we are trying to access the base URL, that is till 4200. Okay. Now if I try to access the about, so I will remove and I will say about. Let's see what happens. Even when I try to access the about, still I am on homeworks. Even clicking on about also means same, because about is configured /about. Okay, so even let me click here and you see even when I'm clicking to anything, still we are on home works only, home component only. Why? The reason is what happens ki whenever we say path match is prefix, then it checks whether this is in the beginning of any URL or not. So when we are trying to access about user or anything else, what is happening कि path start, router start matching the path from top. So anything by default in beginning will have the empty string, right? So automatically that gets matched, and so this path got correct, and hence again and again home is getting redirected. It means since this is getting matched, so corresponding to this path it is redirected to home, and hence home is only getting rendered. Even for about also in beginning there will be the empty string and empty path, so that again get matched with this path only, and again it is getting redirected to home, and so home component is getting matched. And this is the reason that even though we are clicking to anything, but still we are always getting the home component only. So how we can fix this? We can fix this using full. Okay, so as of now let's just match the full match, and then let's check whether issue got resolved or not. So when we click on about, now you see about is getting loaded. When we click on user, user is working. Okay, then the obvious question is कि when we should go for full match and when we should go for prefix. Okay, so in order to understand that, we have to create one route. So for example, let's do this here, and we will say here in comma we can say path match set to prefix. So now, if this is prefix, it means that this URL should be the parent one. Like here, when we say path match is prefix, in that case, we need to specify here their children also. Like I will write first like children, and then there also we need to specify the path. So let's make some path here. I will write here itself. So I will copy in the square bracket, curly braces, we need to say path, and suppose we will set any path, maybe we will say test, and then we will say corresponding to that we need to have the component this one. So I will cut from here and I will paste here, and then I will again path, I will copy the path, I will create few child path. Okay, I will say test 1 2 3 anything, and again this time I will say for 1 2 3 I will say, let's suppose we will say about component should get loaded. Okay, and we are good. So this way we will see. Now if you see what happens ki we have set their path match as prefix. Okay, So this is not full. So when now we will go and we will type the home. So let's see what happens now. If we type here the home, you can see nothing is getting rendered. Okay, so why and how it is working? The thing is, guys, कि whenever we write the home now, we said कि path match should be prefix. It means कि this home should be in the beginning, and after that there should be either test or test 1 2 3. So if we write home slash test, then first what will happen, let's write this home slash test. Okay, and when we hit enter, now you see home component is getting rendered. So why it is happening? The thing is, you see this URL got broken. Okay, and what will happen, ki they will have each segment, like home is the first part, test is the second part. So now since we mention that path match should be prefix, it means the first section, as soon as the first section get match, router will assume ki we have a matching path now, and after that the second section is a test, so it will go and it will search for the child whether this has any child test or not. So yes, here it will match a test is there, means this component will get rendered. Okay, likewise if we say ki home slash test 1 2 3, then it should load about component. Okay, so let's check test 1 2 3, and you can see about is working here. Okay, so whenever we write the prefix, it will split the URL and then it will check the very first URL, okay, first path home. So home is getting match. It means it will not check the entire path at once, okay. It will check the splitted one, and whoever will be the first, it will check for that only. Once it gets match, it means now it will go and it will check the another part. It will assume the prefix got match, whatever is there after that will be checked later. Means ki home is getting match, then the second section is a test 1 2 3, so it will get match, it will get check here as a part of children. If it match, then corresponding to that path the respective component will be rendered. So this is how it works. Now if we make it full, okay, so suppose we are making here full now, so what will happen? If you see, I will save, and then I will try to refresh. So I will say home, and then I will say test. So neither home is working and nor test is working. Why it is so? Even if I'm giving the home, you can say home is also not working, and I will say here it home slash test, none of them are working. So this time what will happen, the entire when we write here, so entire URL will be matched at once. It will not be matched in a splitted manner that was happening in earlier in the prefix. Okay, so entire home, if we want to match with this, we can write here just component, and whatever component, for example, we, we can write here the home component. And now even if we write it, I will simply save and let's check. So you see this URL is getting a match, and this is getting match in as an entire URL. So this is getting match, means we said ki path match should be the full, so home is getting match completely, and hence home component here registered, that is getting rendered. Okay, but if we say ki home slash test, and when we hit, nothing is working. The reason is this time, when we write home slash test, so it is not splitting and checking one at a time. It will check the entire URL. That is, home slash test is there, so it will find ki here home is there but slash test is not there. It will check for another, means entire URL will be checked at once, and if it will match, then only it will invoke the corresponding or respective component. Okay, so home is getting match, but slash test is there, then only it will get match, otherwise it won't match. Okay, so full will match entire URL at once, but the prefix will match just the first part, and later part it will check there in their child one. Okay, so this is how basically prefix and full match. So as of now, we when we say this one, so children will not work, we don't need to write when we write the full children. So let's remove that one, and here itself we will close. Okay, and now this time what will happen, ki even when we write home slash test, you see with home slash test it is working. Why? Because we told path match should be full, and here we are giving this. So this entire URL is getting matched at once, not in a splitted manner, unlike prefix, and it is matching here itself. Hence, corresponding to this, we have registered this component, and this component is getting rendered. So this is how basically path match works for full and prefix. Full means entire URL will matched at once. Okay, it will not a split, and here entire URL will be checked. If it match, then only their respective component will be invoked. But in prefix, it will break the URL. Okay, you don't need to consider the base URL. The URL given after the base URL, that context I'm talking about. So that will be broken, and as soon as the first part get matched, it will go and search for their children in the next part as a part of children in when we say path match is prefix. Okay, so this is the meaning of path match is full and prefix. One more thing, when we write the page not found, okay, so here we will simply write page not found. Let's see what happened. So you can see here page not found is getting loaded. Now also one here, like if we are writing the path match is full, it will work. If we don't write, it means the default value of path match will be prefix. Okay, so here we are writing. Now what happens is sometimes we give the URL, but corresponding to that URL we don't have any registration. Like I will say here something maybe demo. So now if you see with the demo path, we don't have any path. Okay. So in that case, what should happen? So simply if we hit, you can see nothing is getting loaded because none of them got matched. Okay. Likewise, there could be a lot of path which will not match. So in order to handle those kind of things, simply we will use the wildcard rather than giving page not found. So here in path, we need to specify a star star. Okay, which means this is a wild card path. It also means कि if none of the above path match, in that case automatically this path means कि star means everything. Okay, so it will match everything, and then whatever is not getting matched in this URL, this path, corresponding to that, this one will match, and then corresponding to this or anything that is not part of this, for that this component will be loaded. So let's save, and when we put here now demo, let's check what happened. So when we give the demo, it says page not found. When we say home, still we are getting like this home. Then for home also we are getting page not found. For about it is working fine. For user it is working fine. And the reason is कि here when we gave the path is empty. Okay, so it is redirecting to the home. Okay, but for home if you see there is no URL, right? So redirect to home, here it is home. Okay, but this is full match means this home is not getting matched with the entire URL, and hence this is also this is not getting matched with this URL, not with this, and hence finally it is coming here. So here what we can do, we can remove this, or let's check with prefix. First we will make it prefix. Okay, I will explain with the prefix then, and then we will see. So with the prefix also, if we hit home, still we are getting page not found, because what happens कि it will split the URL. Okay, so home got match. Okay, but after that there is a test, but for test there is again no URL registered, we can say. So simply in order to make it work, we can leave it as full. Okay, it will match the entire URL, and we can simply remove from here. So what will happen now, this path will redirect to the home, and corresponding to home we already have the home component registered. So we will save it, and now if we refresh or we go, you see home component. When I click, home is working. So when you click about, so about, and user, then user is working. And except this, if we give any path like this, so none of this path will not match with any of the registered path. It means it will go and match with the wildcard, and corresponding to that this page not found component will be invoked, and so it will say page not found. When we hit enter, you can see page not found is working, means this component is getting rendered. So this is how we have about router. Means we need to configure the route, we can use to redirect to if we have to redirect, and if we want to set a global path, in that case we will use the wildcard, and we already know what is path match means pull and prefix. So that's it for the routes. Thank you.